Hello, welcome to the Celtic Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Jarrod, and joining me tonight is regular contributors Sean, John, and Liam, and we have a special guest, James Forrest from the Celtic blog. How are you going, James?
I'm all right, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
No problems at all. Anyone who wants to know a bit about James and the Celtic blog, about a year ago we did a Tim Talk podcast with him, so go and have a listen in on that podcast there. It's a good insight into what James does with his day-to-day with his writing on Celtic and everything. So thanks for jumping on. How are you going, Sean?
Yeah, good. Just annoyed at James that I got relegated to second place in the greetings. Screw you, James.
How are you, Liam?
All good here. It's we had a wee mini typhoon this afternoon for about 25 minutes, and just enough to soak me on the way home from school, which was fun. But in other news, I'm getting my first microchip 5G implant, whatever you want to call it, on Saturday. Sorry, I mean vaccine on Saturday. So, good times.
How are you, John?
I'm well. It's also been stupidly windy here as well. So, yeah, it must be getting this part of the world also. Big storms.
I'll use that windy comment there as a little segue into the people in the media and people on Twitter just blowing up about the result that happened last night, our time, or last night over there, today our time against Midtjylland, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But first of all, I just want to thank every listener who has tuned in over the last 2 and a bit years of this podcast being around. This is our 100th ever episode, so yeah, big moment for us. Didn't think we'd get past 30, let alone get to 100, so happy days. Thanks everyone for listening in, and we appreciate your support as always. So what we'll do is we'll get straight into the podcast. So we'll quickly touch on the weekend's friendly game, West Ham 6, Celtic 2. I don't really think there's too much that needs to be said about it there, but I'll throw to you, Sean. What was your take on that game?
Yeah, for most of the game, you're just kind of, hands up, these guys are better quality. But then it gets a bit embarrassing when Armstrong Okoflex manages to score a goal. That was the only bit that I thought was shockingly embarrassing. The rest of it was just like, yeah, these guys are decent. Like that fifth goal they scored was unbelievable.
Yep. I have to agree with you there. Wasn't too much to say. James, what was your take on the game? How was it covered over in Scotland?
You would have thought that we had lost the first 10 league games in a row to see the media's hysterical reaction yet. But it was a pretty extreme example of how much work needs to be done. The boy up front, Antonio, absolutely tore us apart with his pace, and the only positive that I can take from it is that we are not going to play against players of his quality in Scotland every week because we were caught cold every time he got the ball. A lot of work needs to be done, clearly. But I don't read too much into pre-season friendlies usually, but there were some certainly very worrying signs.
John, Liam, you got anything you want to
add? Yeah, look, I think as much as I agree with James there that Antonio's pace was one of our biggest problems, I also think his movement was just beyond what those very inexperienced defenders had experienced. So I think from that particular game, obviously we know the result of Midtjylland and stuff, but I would have said that having watched that game, you'd have been very worried going in, knowing that those were going to be your back four, back five. Obviously, Barkas got changed out and stuff, but yeah, it was just a very. It was going to happen. It was a result that was going to happen as soon as we came up against half decent opposition, and West Ham are very good opposition at the moment. Something like that was always going to happen. So, yeah, worrying, but I agree with James. You don't read so much into pre-season friendlies.
And Liam?
One good aspect to come out of this, which is probably I would imagine, and James can probably verify this, has probably been totally ignored in the Scottish media. One of my best mates here in Japan is a West Ham supporter, and through him, I talk to quite a lot of West Ham fans online, and a lot of them were saying, "Look, see, all right, we know this is basically half a Celtic team at the moment, and we know that this is not indicative of the kind of fight they would normally put up in a game." He says, "But the atmosphere, even though there was only 9,000 fans there, the respect that they gave the West Ham players in terms of fans applauding good moves by West Ham, whatever, they said it was a great advert for Celtic someday being brought into the English League setup." So we made some new friends, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I'm on the other side of that, Liam, where you said you got a lot of mates and that are West Ham fans, and me, one of my best mates is Millwall, so yeah, we'll say it all. Nah, good fun though. Yeah, it's one of those games where, as everyone's touched on, it's pre-season friendly. The score doesn't really matter. I think it was for us getting some minutes into guys' legs and starting to build some combinations, especially in our back line going into the Midtjylland game, because we're pretty stretched there at the moment. So yeah, that was, as soon as I saw that I was like, it's a bit of a dress rehearsal, but yeah, no big deal. We go into the proper game. So yeah, we'll discuss this morning or last night's game. Celtic 1, FC Midtjylland 2. Aggregate score, Midtjylland 3, Celtic 2, out of the Champions League. I'll give my take first, and then we'll just bounce it around again like we just did. But when the draw was made, pretty much everyone was saying, yeah, we got no chance. That was the general consensus. If you looked on Twitter, if you looked on Facebook groups, whatever, most people didn't think we had much of a shot. To then have to go play with back line where they're all, I think the oldest player there was Greg Taylor. And in terms of experience, he's probably the most experienced there as well. Away from home, I actually was expecting it to be a close game, maybe a 1-0 or a 2-1 or something. I wasn't expecting it to be us to get absolutely pumped like people were saying. But yeah, it was disappointing, but there's a few things there we can touch on. There's the whole, which I'm sure we can go through it bit by bit, but for me, the key things were seeing a lot of people blaming Ange, saying he should have done his subs earlier. Yes, he should have. 100% I'll agree with that. And as an Australian, that's something that a lot of Australian coaches do. They sub too late. Kevin Muscat, when he was at Melbourne Victory, used to do it all the time, drove us mental. Ange with the Socceroos used to do it all the time. It's a consistent thing over here. However, when you look at the bench and how stretched our team is, we don't have any game changers on the bench at the moment. And that's my thoughts on it. Like, there's no game changers. Look at Rogic, come on, did nothing. Ayeti, come on, did nothing. Maybe if they come on 15 minutes earlier, they could have possibly played themselves into the game when their teammates still had some energy in the legs. But yeah, I just look at it and go, a lot of investment is required. And tonight was about us reaping what we sowed. We have been sowing in the gradual decline at Celtic since Rodgers left, or even his last season, from that point onwards. It wasn't about Ange. It wasn't about the players that were out there, because Murray, Welsh, Ralston, I've been giving him a hard time for years, but those three were probably my three best players on the night. But you can't fault the effort they put in. It's just we're in managed decline and things need to change. So I'll throw to you, Sean. You can go through it because you always have your dot points about the game. So I'll throw to you first and then we'll just go from there.
I was a bit sleepy this morning, so I didn't get too many dot points down. I was actually more kind of taken aback by most of the post-match reactions that were all like total shambles, and people like particularly my dad and my brother saying that Eddie was shit, and I was like, well, he didn't really get a shot away, but he certainly wasn't shit. He was doing a pretty good job holding the ball up and pulling it out of the air and stuff like that. I hear what you're saying about the boys at the back. what did we have, an average age of 21 or something in the back line? And I think, our two centre backs were both born in this millennium. And that's going in against a team that have got some pretty good experience. As you alluded to, myself personally was convinced we were going to get pumped, but over the two legs we were, we performed as the better team, but some of it was just same old from last year, like creating chances and not taking them. 1-0 up last night and James Forrest is through and goal and keeper's gone the wrong way. If he just lifts it, he just puts it wide of the post. It's an unbelievable chance, really. And then even at one each, he had another one-on-one chance that he put straight at the keeper. So I don't know if he's maybe just a bit short of match fitness or not, but normally you'd expect Forrest to bury at least one of those chances in Europe. You may not expect Eddie to score them, but you'd expect Forrest to do it. I don't think we played badly. I just think we didn't defend well at key moments, and we weren't clinical at the other end. And I mean, how is that different from the last year and a half? Apart from we played with more intensity, more pace. We looked at, but we're doing it with weaker players, and the same problems that we've had for the last year are resurfacing.
And John, what's your take?
Yes. Well, just as we were saying off pod, I stupidly got up at 3:45 this morning to watch this game, which was probably a mistake, but that's what you do when you're a Celtic fan. So yeah, look, just going through everything, especially some of the social media reaction, it wasn't a pumping. It's just a stupid word to use. I think I agree with Sean. We held our own for majority of the game, and if anything, we controlled a lot of the game. I just do not think in any way, shape, or form Ange can get blamed for this morning. I agree with Chris Sutton. This blame lies solely at the feet of the board. Their inaction over the past 4 years, 4 seasons, is what's caused all of this, caused the problems that he's inheriting. We can bog down into the should he have subbed here, should he have taken certain players off at certain times? Yeah, probably. But he's only been in the door for a couple of minutes. Do you know what I mean? Like he's still getting used to learning. Like that excuse is going to run out eventually. But at this point right now, I don't think he's got the depth on the bench to do anything. So yeah, I don't even have any grudge or remorse for what Ange did yesterday or chose to do or not do. As far as the game goes, I thought they were very organised defensively. I thought they broke down a lot of our attacking play quite well. I think they just had better defence overall. We were better attacking for most of the game. And if anything, they probably got their tactics spot on because of that. So they sat back for lots of the game, let us have possession, soaked up all of that, and then hit us on a high press when we made mistakes. And that some of those mistakes did come from the inexperience of Murrays and Welshers and potentially Soros, people like that, who are just a bit inexperienced at this level. But yeah, I thought they were poor. I would have to agree slightly with Sean's brother and dad. I definitely don't think Edouard had a bad game, but he definitely didn't want to be there. I definitely got that impression that he doesn't want to play for Celtic anymore. He's just done. He's not, even when we had that interaction where Forrest was trying to run across the face of their defence, Edouard got in the way. He wanted the ball off Forrest. He actually tackled Forrest. It was absolute fucking mental what I watched. Because he wants his move. That's that. In my opinion, he just wants his move. So he wants to have these highlight goals so he can get out of there. So even a poor Eddie is a half decent Eddie, right? So I just think he was poor from what we know he can be. I thought Soro had a fairly poor game. I thought our back four had a very, very average game, probably Bain included there. But yeah, overall, disappointed thoroughly, but not surprised by the result. Not surprised.
If you're judging Edouard as wanting to get away, because he's like lacking intensity in his play, then he's wanted out since day one, if you're using that as your barometer.
I know exactly what you mean. There is a line with Eddie, though, where you can see that cool, calm Eddie, where he's just absolutely single-minded hunter, and the Eddie that doesn't really want to be there anymore. I think anyone who's been watching Edouard long enough, which we all have, can tell a difference there. And I don't think it's a case of he's just being cool. But it's the decisions that he's making, which is, I can see it. I'm interpreting as a sense of frustration of not wanting to be with us. So let him go and get whatever you can for him. And I have no ill feelings towards him. I think he's done fantastically for us, and I think he'll do very well wherever he goes. But at this point, it's probably better just to take the 20 million for him and invest it as quickly as we possibly can in other players.
We'll throw to you, Liam, and then we'll go to James off the back of that so he can wrap it all up.
Sure. First of all, I think we need to point out that Midtjylland were a team that very much played to their strengths. They knew what they were doing. They knew how to play against us. They clearly did their homework. And in that regard, you have to give them some respect. Because everybody in the media all day today is like, oh, it's a crisis for Celtic, it's this, it's that. Whereas reality is, we talked a few weeks ago and we all expected to lose this game. You know? But now it's at a point where the frustrating thing for me is that in about 6 weeks' time, we are going to have a team together that's going to wipe the floor with teams like Midtjylland. But by then it's too late. And it's the same every season. We don't actually click as a team until about October. It's been that way for the last 3 or 4 years. And last season we didn't click at all. And it's because we dither too long in getting players that want to go out and getting new players in. Ange should have been here in February. And he should have had players ready to come in June, with a view to fielding guys like Starfelt, like Furuhashi, like whoever else we're going to sign in the next 5 or 6 weeks, ready to go in the first leg against Midtjylland. That is on the board. That has nothing to do with Ange. It's entirely down to the hubris and the complete lack of urgency from the board, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there, Liam. James, what's your take on everything?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Liam more, actually. The thing is, as you've said, there was a kind of a perception that we were doomed to fail in this game right from the minute the draw was made. But I'll go the opposite way. From the minute the draw was made, I thought we had it in our hands to win this tie. I didn't see any reason to be afraid of the opposition here. You know, this isn't a Champions League quality team that we played. This isn't a side that's going to, you know, top a group or something like that. They were a beatable team. Had we even done the bare minimum necessary to get through the tie? I said last night in the piece I wrote after the game that our club did nothing whatsoever to prepare the manager to win this game. The club didn't make the slightest effort to put us through. Not the slightest effort. A couple of signings who couldn't actually play in the game. That doesn't convince me at all. We should have had. I think we should have had enough to go through the tie, regardless, right? But had we pushed the boat out a little bit more, just a little bit more, and done just a little bit more, we would be guaranteed Europa League group stage football at the very least right now. And they didn't even try. That's what pisses me off. And, you know, to talk about individual performances, I thought the defence acquitted itself very well last night. I thought Ralston was the best man on the park, which is a credit to that guy, because he wakes up every single morning to read about the 5 players, 6 players, 7 players who were thinking about replacing him with, and he just gets on with it and digs in. Ryan Christie, I thought, covered every blade of grass, which is incredible for a guy who's got both feet out the door and his bags packed. Odsonne Edouard, on the other hand, I'm sick and tired watching him, because I had one real fear before this tie started, and it wasn't so much that the defence would sell the jerseys and we would get done or anything like that. I worried where the goals were going to come from, and I wondered which version of Odds and Edouard would turn up. And the version who turned up over the two legs might as well not even have bothered.
Yeah, it was an empty jersey there, James. I have to agree with you. He reminds me a lot of Nicholas Anelka in that he's got so much talent, but if mentally he's not in the game, he comes across like a bit of, like they called him Anelka, Le Sulk, like he was a bit of a sulk. So, yeah, if you're getting paid a wage and you're not going to put in the effort, it's just a bit of wage thievery right there from Edouard. And I rate the guy. I'm going, like, it's probably my opinion overall. Him and Dembele would be the two best strikers we've had since Larson. And
absolutely,
that's the level he's at. But I can't keep looking back at him and going, that player from 2 years ago is irreplaceable, because in the same way Rogic from the Invincible treble season, we can't keep thinking, oh yeah, look at Rogic, he did that for us. He won that cup game for us against Aberdeen. That's a legacy thing there where he's on a huge wage and he's barely playing, barely fit. Same with Bitton. Edouard doesn't want to be there. You've got Christie, looks like he wants to move. Aya's gone. So you're looking at it going, all right, those players don't want to be there. And just said if players don't want to be there, they can piss off. Great. But the board's got to open the checkbook. And if we bring in 20 million for Edouard, all 20 has to be invested straight back into the squad.
Yeah.
I was reading something where a couple of days ago where it's like we brought in like 33 million or something like that in the last 18 months or something like that in transfers. And we've only invested like 7 or 8 back into the team. So, or about 9 actually. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. But talking about the board, I saw this tweet today and it sums up pretty much what we're saying. Our board has systematically dismantled a winning team for profits. We've gone from Forster to Barkas, Tierney to Taylor, Lustig to Ralston. We had Van Dijk and we got Welsh in that spot. Aya to Murray, Armstrong to Christie, Roberts to Forrest, Brown to Sorrow, Sinclair to Alanusi to no one, and Dembele to Edouard. So the only two there that I don't think are much of a downgrade will be Roberts to Forrest and Dembele to Edouard. But the Edouard one is if we're referring to him 2 years ago, not what we've got from him in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good looking team, not a good looking squad.
So what we'll do then, just as a quick little whip around, I'll just rattle off a few of the linked transfer stories and things that we're seeing in the media over the last week. And all I want to get is I'd like that or it's pish. Okay, that's all I want to know. Is it a good one or a bad one? So Marion Shved's left. You happy with that, or should have kept him?
Nah.
Cheerio. No way. Touch wood.
We'll never know because the poor bugger never get a chance.
Yeah, that's true. But if he wants off, he's, cheerio.
Go on. Next one, we're just talking about Edouard to Brighton for 21.5.
Yeah. Yep.
Take your money and run.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yep.
The rumours of Fraser Forster again.
Nah.
No.
I'm going to say yes, just because he's better than what we've got. Much better. But he's not coming. Let's just be realistic. He's not coming.
He doesn't suit Ange's type of football. That's my concern. Like, Ange wants a guy who can play with the ball at his feet. Forster can't do that very well. So that's no for me.
I would say yes. Sorry, James, on you go.
Sean, I know I don't forgive him for stringing us along last year and allowing us to go into the 10 campaign without a goalkeeper.
Next player is Man City right back Yan Kuto. Apparently that's on.
No more City projects. Let's develop our own players rather than theirs.
Correct. Happy days. Agree with that.
Yeah, I'd also. I mean, the only way I'd accept the loan at this point is if we absolutely have to plug a hole for this season alone, or till January.
So if we're not going to get him, Aurelio Buta from Royal Antwerp at right back.
Abuta's a better option.
Yep. I take that.
So I'd much rather have him if it was a choice between the two.
On the left wing, Christian Lovrich from HNK Gorica.
Yes, 10 times yes. Pay the money and bring him in.
Yep, I'm same.
I would say yes, but I'm concerned that would then mean that Ange is going on the assumption that Furuhashi is going to be a striker, and that's not his game. So that concerns me a wee bit.
Depends on the formation Ange plays, because he likes a 4-3-3. So if that's the case, if you've got Lovrich playing out left, if you've got Furuhashi in the middle as like a false 9, which is how Ange's 4-3-3 tends to work. He doesn't have the striker as a target man. He has them more back in as between a 9 and a 10 sort of role there. So if you put Furuhashi in that false 9 role, then you had Lovrich on the left and you had Abada on the right, or Jamesy out on the right. I'd like the look of that.
That could work. That's. I didn't realise that was Ange's go-to. That would definitely work well if that was the case.
You look at Australia team where you had Tim Cahill, who was 5'10", playing as a false 9. That's the sort of role he puts that striker in. Doesn't have to be a big target man.
My understanding of it is that he's trying to sign players that can play in any position across the front three, just so that they can rotate during a game and have a kind of freedom.
Yeah,
well, that's very modern of him.
Perfect example of that, when he was at Melbourne Victory, he had Costa Barbarousis in the right wing. He had, I think it was Marco Rojas or James Troisi out on the left. And then he had Guy Finkler as a Brazilian attacking mid, playing in the false 9 or playing as a 10. And then he had Besart Berisha as his striker, playing in that middle as well. So, and they all just rotated. They all just rotated positions except for Berisha. The other three will just pop up anywhere. So I could see that happening at Celtic Park. Yeah,
if you look at Christian Lovrich's profile on Transfer Market, it has him down as primarily left winger, but also as a right winger and centre forward, second striker, all of that.
Yeah. James, were you going to say something?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you a question. This formation that we played last night, you don't expect that when Ange has players that will be the system that we use?
He won't have one system. He'll have 3 or 4. He'll have a 4-2-3-1 as one option, but he predominantly likes a 4-3-3. Whether that's a 4-3-3 with wingers or whether that's a 4-3-3 with, like a lead striker and a secondary striker, a couple of guys like 2 10s behind a 9. I've seen him do that before. I've even seen him run a system where he's gone 4-2-2-2. And the way it was he had 4, then he had 2 holding midfielders, then he had 2 10s, but then he had a 7 and a 9 out, a 7 and an 11 out on the wings, furthest up. So I've seen him play that formation.
He did that for Australia, didn't he?
He did that at Australia, did it at Victory, he did it at Brisbane. He's done it all over the place. It's one of them ones where he'll match the formation to best suit the players, but he just wants to have as much talent in as possible and people who are going to work hard and want to be there, and then he'll make it work.
I don't know if it's just a short-term patchwork fix, but there was the Turnbull interview last week where he was saying that Ange was telling them, once you get into the final third, to play on instinct and not to be too rigid in terms of decisions. Again, I don't know if that's just because they've not had time to prepare and create a shape properly, but that's certainly the Turnbull, something said publicly.
Wouldn't surprise me because, they haven't had full squad. Everyone's at different stages of their pre-season. We're still waiting on guys to come through. Like you got Furuhashi down in London still to come in. So when he comes in, I'm sure it'll change your shape again. Then when you bring in someone else, like Edouard leaves, then you're going to say, okay, who are we signing at that striker? Do we sign Nisbet? He's a different sort of striker to Edouard. Do we sign someone else completely different, which I hope. Nisbet is not our replacement if Edouard leaves. If Griffiths leaves, that's when Nisbet should come in my opinion. But it's going to be horses for courses. Like, you get to that point and go, who have we brought in? Okay, now let's figure out our shape. So what we're seeing now and what we see come September, once the window's shut, will be completely different.
Yeah, I'm actually encouraged to hear that.
Next few players, last three that I've got linked here. Gianluca Lapadula from Benevento in Italy. 31-year-old striker. Apparently they want £8.5 million for him. No chance.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, is that the Peruvian one? Or is that the... Oh, no. No, thank you.
Nah, we don't pay that much for somebody who's going to have no sell-on value. Nah, no chance.
If we're going to spend that money, we'd go to Mbaye and Yang from Rennes. He's probably...
Yeah. He would have been a great signing, but it looks as if he's going to go to Italy.
Yeah.
Back to Italy.
He's the sort where I think he's more a Dembele type of striker than an Edouard sort, and that would probably suit Ant the way Ant just likes his strikers playing anyway. But I always thought, since we linked them, like, there's no way we'll get priced out of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem above us.
And the last one, Joe Hart. Who wants him first?
Nobody wants to touch it, yeah.
Yes, I would say yes, and we should have signed him last year. There, I said it.
I'll go one better, Liam. We shouldn't have signed him last year because if we're going to be bringing in Joe Hart, we should have kept Craig Gordon. So you're putting a Band-Aid over, massive cut there, mate, if you're bringing Joe Hart in. But
well, the massive cut has grown into like a cleaver wound now, and we need a good goalkeeper. And Joe Hart is a decent goalkeeper, right? And we have a good record for taking guys in the English Premier League who were once great and are no longer cutting it, come to Celtic and they become stars again.
Yeah, agree.
That's a good point. That's true.
Aye.
Agree with you on there. He's 34 years old. If he comes in and we get 2 good years out of him, working with Stevie Woods, in 2 years' time, if he's mentoring Connor Hazard and he's like all over him, developing him, and then Hazard's ready to step in and take his spot after that, fine, I could live with that. But there's got to be, he's a signing for now, but who's underneath him to take his spot? Because that's what we've got to get to as a club. Who's your starter? When you sell your starter, the replacement should be ready to step into the starter, and then you just buy the new replacement. We need to get to that structure.
Here's one for you. If we get Joe Hart, I'm assuming it's a free transfer. We should go and get the boy Segrist from Dundee United as a backup. That would be my two. I would say go with those two as your main keepers for next season, with Hazard as someone who can train alongside both of them and hopefully continue to develop.
Well, it's funny you say that because I actually had as our next topic the goalkeeping conundrum at Celtic Park. Is Barkas good enough, or do we need to bring in someone else? And you've mentioned Segrist. And if we were to bring him in, I just mentioned about Hazard learning under Joe Hart. But if we were to bring in Segrist, then I'd actually say to him, okay, we'll sign him from you, but here, take Hazard on loan for 12 months and then make him your number one. And so we get first team Scottish Premiership experience at a decent club. I actually think that would be good for his development as well. But at the same time, if we're going to bring in a keeper and you want to look at where someone Ange would know, I'm going to throw one out there that we've mentioned in the past, but Mitch Langerak is at Nagoya Grampus or whatever over in Japan. He's an Australian international, used to be at Dortmund and Stuttgart. Bring him in. He wouldn't be too expensive. And if everyone was talking about Matt Ryan and how he was an option, sorry, but at the same age, Langerak was actually the better player before he went to Dortmund. So bring him in. He's 31 years old, or 30 or 31. I'd take that signing.
Who was
he's a superb keeper.
Who was the one in Belgium that said he would walk to Scotland to sign for us?
Captain of Anderlecht.
That's who it was, yeah. He's yeah, that's an interesting one.
He just signed a new 4-year deal though.
Did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was one of those where he's just admiring Celtic's history and stature and stuff.
However, if you did sign him, you'd have to put on his shirt. Don't put his last name on there, Van Comberg. You'd need to sell the shirts with Hendrick. Put that on the back.
Yeah.
Because you'd make some good cash on that, I'm telling you.
Just in the goalkeeper discussion and talking about Joe Hart, I think a lot of Celtic fans are just remembering what Joe Hart was when he was at City. The guy has fallen so far from grace that he is a shadow of the former self. And if we currently have problems with a keeper that has no confidence, Joe Hart has the exact same problem, that he has absolutely no confidence right now, and we don't have the luxury for him to come to Celtic and build his confidence back up. We need a keeper to come in straight away and just be ready to be Celtic's keeper. So look, I think I'm in agreement with most Celtic fans, which is Joe Hart better than what we have now? Probably, but that's a hard one to decide. And would I have him in? Well, I'd have anybody in at this point just to see if they're better than what we have. So yeah, we need to solve this. Barkas needs to just wake up one day and just get on with it and just be a fucking keeper, or we need to replace him ASAP with somebody.
If I could just offer a counterpoint to that, with the Joe Hart thing, if you remember when he left Man City, it wasn't because he had a massive loss of form or because he made any massive error in a big game. It's because Guardiola didn't fancy him because he wants a ball-playing goalkeeper, right? Yeah. Since then, every club that Joe Hart has gone to, he's never gone there with the intention of being the first choice. So if you go there, if you go to a club and you know right away you're not the number one, no wonder your confidence is shot to shit. I think bring him into Celtic and say to him, look, we know you used to be England's best goalkeeper. We need a top-class keeper right now. Here's the gloves, get on with it. I think that's exactly what he needs and exactly what Celtic need.
Got another name to throw into the mix then. He went from Stoke to Crystal Palace, and he's in the second year of a 3-year deal. It was transferred for £1 million, so he's affordable. I don't know how his wages would shape up there, but Jack Butland. If we're thinking about former England goalkeepers who, have fallen to the wayside slightly in the last year or two, there's another name we could throw into the mix.
Yeah.
Yep.
High cost for you're not getting good value.
And that's the issue we got at the moment.
The only other thing as well is if Postecoglou wants to play in this modern era, they have this style which is like the modern era football stuff, which is basically everybody's just copying Guardiola, then why would we want Joe Hart to come in, who Guardiola, the person who kind of invented this wave of football, said he wasn't the type of keeper that can play football on the ground and pass out from the back and stuff. And I agree with the Butland thing as well, which is you're not going to get very high value from somebody like that who's still playing in English football and stuff. So we need to think much more out of the box. So maybe look into the J League again and that Australian keeper that you mentioned, Jarrod. Somebody, I don't know. I actually don't have the answer. I just despair when it comes to the goalkeeper position right now.
And James, you got any thoughts on this goalkeeper?
Well, I actually hadn't thought about Langret, but he is as good a shout as anybody that I've heard. Primarily because the manager knows him and the manager can get the best out of him. I totally agree on Sean's point about Joe Hart. The last thing that we need to do right now is bring in a goalkeeper who has to find his confidence, because he's not going to get 5 minutes to settle before the likes of Chris Sutton are saying, this is another mistake Celtic have made, this is another disaster. And that's exactly what will happen if we sign the wrong guy here. Because, his first mistake is going to be analysed and then analysed again, then over-analysed. and the narrative will build very, very quickly that we've screwed up yet again and Celtic can't spot a goalkeeper and we should have gone for Craig Gordon and all this usual pish. I'm sick hearing it, honestly. I mean, Barkas is a cautionary tale now, as far as I'm concerned. It's terrible what's happened to that guy. I hope he goes off and has an absolutely phenomenal career and shuts a lot of people up. But I think it's undeniable that it will not happen to Celtic now. I mean, I've been writing about this for many, many months, that this guy needs confidence and he needs time to settle. He's not going to get time to settle. It's readily apparent. This is another Celtic manager who has looked at him and seen his body language and whatever it is and decided that he can't be trusted with the number one spot. And that's a disaster as far as I'm concerned. It's £5 million down the drain. But worse than anything else is the fact that we have sacrificed a player who the media made its mind up about in 5 minutes. And the last thing we can afford to do is bring in a goalkeeper who gives them an excuse to do this all over again.
To be fair, James, I made my mind up in about 5 minutes on him as well.
Yeah, you're the one who named him Cabbage Hands on the podcast, Sean.
I called after one game. I was like, this guy's not got it.
You know what he'll be, though? He'll be what you're hoping for, James, would be him be a Timu Pukki. He'll go elsewhere and have a good career, but it won't be at our place.
Yeah, it makes me sad because I don't think that he can possibly be as bad as he looks in a Celtic strip, and as bad as his critics suggest he is. He's a full international for Greece. He's got a great shutout record. He was excellent at AEK Athens. Maybe it's the pressure of playing for a club the size of Celtic. Although that pressure might not be quite as severe when we are playing in the Europa Conference League later on this season.
We just need to sign David Marshall, get it done with, move on, deal with it next year.
Yes. I'd be happy with that.
No, not this crap again. We all know David Marshall's amazing at playing outside the box. Was that your joke you were talking about earlier, Sean?
It's not. I had a very tasteless joke to make, but it's not really fitting in with this conversation.
Chuck it in anyway.
Okay, so in terms of choosing who's going to chucking in Bain, chucking in Barkas, how do you choose who plays in goals for Celtic? Should probably get Meryl Streep in to decide. She's got some experience. Choosing who goes in front of a firing line.
Oh God. Moving along.
It's probably one for the older generations.
Moving right along.
I laughed if nobody else did. Don't worry.
I'm just shaking my head here. So, guys, do you think that Celtic will bring in a starting quality right back before the game against Hearts on the weekend? What do you think, James?
It's window dressing right now. Even if we signed the guy today, unless he came from England, he wouldn't be able to play because he would have to quarantine. He would, even if he didn't have to quarantine, he would not be anywhere near ready because he wouldn't have met his teammates for longer than 5 minutes. It'd be absolute window dressing. Honestly, I understand why Ange is already pissed off. I understand why he's already scunnered with what he's watching from those above him. Because, as I said, we made no effort whatsoever to qualify for the Champions League. I don't see us making any effort whatsoever to qualify for the Europa League groups. It will be a minor miracle if we have a right back signed by Saturday. A minor miracle.
I'll push back a little bit on what you said there about not meeting the teammates, because Scott Sinclair made his debut without having met his teammates.
That's true. So, mate, you're right.
And scored the winning goal.
He did, yeah.
At Tynecastle.
At Tynecastle.
It's all lining up, everyone. There you go. Get on it.
Buta first winning goal, last goal scorer.
Starfelt. There you go.
Furuhashi, get your money on it.
Any of the new guys. There you go. Done.
I pretty much guarantee that Ralston is starting this Saturday.
Yes, I agree.
I think Ralston deserves to start anyway, considering how good he was last night.
He's earned that spot. And it's going to sound weird.
He has, absolutely.
Actually,
and that's it in a nutshell. He's earned that spot till somebody better takes it off him.
It feels awkward saying that, but yeah, he's earned that spot at the moment. In the same way that, you know what, unfortunately, I think Murray will probably drop back to the bench with Starfelt will start, but I'd keep him in as well because he earned his spot last night. But, you don't want to have too many young guys there. If you're spending that kind of coin on Starfelt, you got to play him.
Yeah.
I would just say that I hope we don't have a right back in place by the weekend, because that means we've signed one of these mediocre options from England that we're looking at the moment, and that'd be desperation. I'd rather wait a couple of weeks and get a really good right back from Europe.
What about that right back from Aberdeen a few years ago? What was his name again?
What, Shea Logan?
Go Rangers, no. I had to do that. No, the other bloke that was on loan from, was it Nottingham Forest or Derby or something like that?
Oh, yeah, I forgot his name. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
We're getting linked with all these Derby.
Shea Logan's biggest concern now is making sure he doesn't drop the soap in the shower.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving along. Ryan Christie. Yeah. Do you think he'll sign a new deal at Celtic, as Ange's mentioned in the media, or is he just performing well at the moment, put himself in the shop window and get his move? What do you guys think? We'll go to you first, John.
No, I don't think he'll sign a new contract. I think he's just doing what he should be doing, which is playing for his employer at the moment and, trying to get his move. So, no, I don't think. I think he's made the decision. I think he's waiting for the right type of team to come in. I think Celtic are doing the same. They're just playing him to because we haven't got really much of an option, but I also think they're just trying to get the best deal for him.
Liam, what do you think?
I think it's a mutually beneficial arrangement at the moment, because we can't let him go until we've got an effective replacement, and also he wants a platform to showcase his talent, so he's going to do his best to try and get the move that he wants. There's been numerous cases down the years where players have done that. They've said, look, I want away, but let's work this out and let's be professional about it. Stelian Petrov being the classic example. He made it clear a few months before he left Celtic that he was for the off, made sure he was still on a contract, so Celtic got plenty of money for him, and went to the Premier League and became a standout. And I think Christie could hopefully go on to do the same.
What do you think, Sean?
Look, let's be realistic about it. He is expecting to get as a free agent, expecting to get a contract offer from someone like Southampton, and he's probably found that the best he's got is Burnley, and he's like, nah, that's a bit shit. So I'm actually going to put some effort in for a few games here. Because he's been able to talk to teams for like a month now, so he's so whatever's on the table for him in the last month, he's been incentivized by how shit those offers are, and that's the reason why he's playing. If he plays out his skin for the next month, because let's put it this way, he's not going to showcase himself in the Champions League. So if he plays out his skin domestically or Europa League wise for the next month and still has shit offers, then I think he could then maybe sign a deal, and I would imagine he would only sign it if it includes some sort of release clause for something in the region of about 4 or 5 million. But no, realistically, I think he has seen what's on the table and is realising he needs to get a finger out, and that's pretty much where we're at.
And James, what do you think?
I would have said a few months ago that it didn't really matter, because what we saw from Ryan Christie last season was so subpar that he wouldn't have been missed. But Ange's, either it's something that Ange's done, or, as the guys are saying, he realises that he's put himself in a bad place, and he's now trying desperately to impress some suitor out there. We're seeing the Ryan Christie of a few years ago again. And that makes me sad to think that he will not be hanging around much longer. But I really don't think he will be. I think Ryan Christie may have been badly advised, to say the least, in fact. I don't know that having family members as your agents ever works out well for anybody, except maybe Britney Spears' not worked out too badly for her.
Topical.
Yeah. Contentious.
I just think he's been badly advised. I think if Ryan Christie would have signed a Celtic contract extension, even for 18 months, something that would have seen him through this season and let us sell him in the summer, he would be in a better place and we would be in a better place. But I think he's going to go somewhere for the money. He's certainly not going to go somewhere at this point. The offers that are on the table have nothing to do with football. I mean, the offer from Saudi Arabia, I'm sure would be life-changing, but it will not enhance his career prospects any. So I don't think he will stay, no. But I'm at a point now where, having seen little flashes of the Ryan Christie of a couple of years ago, I kind of wish he would.
Yeah, I'm with you, James. # free Christie.
You look at the money. You look at the money that Ryan Gold's got to go over to Vancouver Whitecaps, and he's probably looking at that going, I'm on what, 10,000 a week or whatever, and he's going for 41,000 a week over there. Why would he sign a new deal? But yeah,
That's it.
I don't see much there. But anyway, we'll quickly jump on to Celtic versus Hearts opening up the season on the weekend. What do you reckon, a score prediction? Each of us will go around the room here, quickly give a score prediction and one or two lines about what we're hoping to see in the game. So for me, Celtic 2, Hearts 1. I just want to see some stability at the back, and that one against us is because of the dubious penalties that we always get against us there and at Ibrox. So yeah, I'd like to see, what's his name, a Yeti get a run for the full 90 instead of coming off the bench for 15 minutes, and see if we actually have a player there or not. What are you looking for, Sean? Score prediction, and what do you think what would you like to see?
Exact same as you, Jarrod. I'm saying 2-1 Celtic. I'm saying it's a close game and we nab one in about 75 minutes. Requiem of 2016, Brendan Rodgers.
John?
Well, okay, so I agree that we're going to win the game. I think based on reputation, I'm hoping that we will score just the one more. So I'm going 3-1 because I think because of our defensive weaknesses, we'll probably ship a goal. And yeah, I just think we need to remember this is not necessarily the Hearts that we're used to. This is potentially a weakened Hearts as well.
Liam?
3-2 to Celtic. Lots of attacking, lots of flair, hopefully a few goals, but I think some more piss poor defending and possibly another goalkeeping error.
And James?
3-0 Celtic. I think we'll be comfortable.
Yes, love it.
Bold.
Mr. Positivity. There we go. All right, what we'll do quickly is I've got a little quiz for you, James. I'll just come up in my head now. I'm going to throw out some random names of places over here in Australia, and I'm going to get you to say either yes or no on if there is a Celtic supporters club there. All right. So, Monkey Mire CSC.
What?
What do you reckon? Is there one there or not, James?
Yes.
No, there's a lot of dolphins at Monkey Mire. That's about it. It's over in Western Australia. That's
Yeah, I was going to say, I know there's the Monkey Mire. I don't know if there's the CSC.
nah. Whyalla CSC.
Definitely yes.
Sure is. It's a place called the Brazen Shed, and they all go there for games and stuff. It's a good little setup over there. Shout out to Gordon and the guys over there. Mornington.
That sounds right. Yep.
The Social Celts Supporters Club is in Mornington in Victoria. So yep, it's a good one. What else have we got? Queanbeyan.
No.
Correct. And last one, Brisbane
Absolutely, positively, yes.
There you go. There. Good. Yeah, I'll just do that for a bit of fun. I thought I'd throw some interesting stuff there. All right. So here comes the fun part. This will probably be recorded, shared around on Twitter, screenshots. If people write it down or whatever, the works. We're going to bounce around the Rangers stuff, pages like it did last year. And
Cool.
to those wankers, jam it. I don't care what you have to say. So it's our fearless predictions for the upcoming season. So we've got 8 different things here. So we each have a bold prediction for the upcoming season. It can be anything. So we'll start with you, John.
Right. Well, God. So I thought about this for a while, and I don't want to say this, but my bold prediction is that if we don't change things soon and fast, I don't think we're going to be winning the league this year.
Boo.
I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
It hurts me.
Liam, what's your bold prediction?
That there's going to be another helicopter Sunday. The league is going to go down to the final day, whoever wins it.
Sean?
That going into the split, we will not be in second place.
Oh.
My bold prediction is that Hibs will be challenging Rangers / Sevco for second place. And we will be winning the league. James, what's your bold prediction?
My bold prediction is that no SPL referee will give a penalty against Rangers until about the halfway point of the campaign.
That's not bold. That's shite. Do something bold.
That's just, the continuation of what's happened for the last 18 months anyway.
Yeah. Do you want to bet on it raining in Scotland while you're at it?
All right, so player of the year, John?
Sorry, is this a Scottish SPFL player of the year or is it Celtic player of the year?
League. All these are league.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I put Abada down. I think that's a bit of a risk to say that, but I think I've seen enough to say he could probably, if he keeps going. Yeah.
And who'd be a young player of the year then? While we're at it,
I've put Turnbull down again. I think Turnbull will get it for a second year.
Third
year. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Liam, we'll get both of them from you.
Okay, player of the year, Callum McGregor. Young player of the year, Abada.
Sean?
Ah, you bastard. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Callum McGregor, Abada.
Player of the year for me will be Nisbet because we're going to sign him.
Mm-hmm.
And young player of the year, I'm going to say it, Murray.
Oh.
There you go.
That'd be
He'll
nice.
break into the team and he'll do wonders for us. What about you, James?
Yeah, I would go with Murray for Young Player of the Year. You can see already that he's got something, and the fact that he's had such a baptism of fire and he handled it really well, I thought he's a shoe-in for Young Player of the Year. And for Player of the Year, title-winning captain Callum McGregor's a stonewall certainty.
All right. Best non-placed Glasgow team. Don't make any sense. Best placed non-Glasgow team. There you go. Got to be dyslexic. All right, John.
I've said the Dons. I've said Aberdeen.
Liam.
Just for clarity, is Snake Mountain considered within Glasgow?
Oh.
No, Hibs.
Sean.
Yeah, I'm saying Aberdeen.
For me, it's Hibs because of what I said earlier. James.
Aberdeen for sure, absolutely. Scalping Ibrox for a Champions League spot.
Who will be relegated? John.
I've said Dundee here, but it could be a couple of teams. So I've said Dundee just for shits and giggles, really.
Just because you got to pick one.
Yep.
Liam?
What's the question again?
Who'll be relegated?
All right, relegated. Oh, that's a tricky one. I'm going to say Motherwell.
Sean?
So last year I tipped St Johnstone, and then they finished top 6 and won the cup double. So Livingston fans will be happy to hear I'm tipping them this year for relegation.
You bastard, you just took my answer.
That's happened last year as well.
Yeah, no, Livingston. James, what do you think?
Yeah, Dundee are going to go. Bye-bye. Definitely.
All right. Who will be the league top scorer? John?
I've said Forrest, and that's only if he manages to stay not injured, uninjured, whatever the word is.
No, you're just saying that because his namesake's on the pod with us.
Yeah.
Liam?
You know who I'm going to say? Furuhashi, all the way.
Sean?
Sevco penalty.
Yeah.
Whoever takes him, doesn't matter. If you add up the penalties for Sevco, top scorer.
Yeah.
I'll say
Would that be that guy that I saw the shirt for last week? Tavernier, is that his name?
He might. You never know. He could miss 3 in one game, and then somebody else will take some. But either way, that's who it's going to be.
For me, it's going to be Nisbet because, as I said, we're going to sign him. And James?
I'm going to go AN other because I don't believe for a second that we can sell Odsonne Edouard and not replace him. And so depending on how far we're willing to push the boat out for his replacement will be the top goal scorer in the league.
Smart play there. Most red cards, John.
Well, I've put here if he stays, more or less.
Liam?
I'm going to say Scott Brown up at Aberdeen. I could see him getting at least one against the Huns.
Sean?
Ismail Soro.
Ooh.
Most red cards will be... I was going to say Lewis Ferguson. James?
Yeah, Morella stays, it will be him for sure. I expect a lot of red cards at Ibrox this season, not because the referees are going to be particularly harsh on them, but they don't handle defeat very well. And as the season starts to slip away, they're going to get more and more desperate and angry and aggressive.
Fair enough. And the last one on our Phyllis predictions. Who will be the first club to change manager this season? John?
Well, I've put Sevco. And purely because if they don't, when they don't get into the Champions League, I think Jarrod will take any spot away. To be honest, I think he feels like he's done, so he will take a move anywhere in England.
Liam?
Yep, I'd agree with that. Stevie G is too good for Rangers, and I hope he goes somewhere and is successful because I actually like the guy, but I cannot support him for as long as he is their manager.
Sean?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of anyone that's on a shaky peg at the moment. And apart from Livings, for me, it's a toss of a coin between Livy and Ross County. Ross County got rid of John Hughes after he did pretty well there, and replace him with someone who is not going to get much grace from the public, because of who he is and what he has done and said in the past. Livingston.
I'm going to go with a weird one here. Callum Davison will leave St Johnstone. And the reason he will leave him is for the Scotland job.
So cool.
Yeah, and Clark will find something else, I reckon. And James, what do you reckon?
Well, it's a toss-up between Martindale, Livingston and Jarrod at Ibrox. Because if the wheels start to come off the bus early in the campaign, And, as the guys have already alluded to, if he doesn't get to the Champions League groups, I think that he will go to save his own skin and save his own career. Because he still, of course, fancies himself as being a Liverpool manager one day, deluded fool that he is. And I don't think he'll risk his reputation if the wheels start coming off the bus over there.
Yep, fair enough. So there we go. It's our fearless predictions for the upcoming season. We'll check them again at the end of the season and see how right, or more than likely, how terribly wrong we all got them. So good fun.
And can I just say, any Rangers fans that are listening in, if this is the end of the season and things haven't gone to plan, leave your sister alone.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll wrap up. What we normally do at the end of the podcast, James, is we do a final thought. So it's kind of like the end of the old Jerry Springer episode where he just has a final thought. No discussions needed. You just say something and then we go on to the next thing. So, Sean, we'll go to you first for your final thought.
The Australian winter is the same as the Scottish summer.
Liam?
Well, we're all a bit disappointed in light of our European defeat last night, but just to put a bit of perspective, it could be worse. In America today, every minute somebody gets shot. So thank God I'm not that poor bastard.
John?
My final thought is a plead to anyone who's listening is in New South Wales, Australia. Gladys, please start vaccinating the under 40s. We need it so bad. That's my.
I got my first jab. I'm only 35.
It's different in every state because we didn't get it over here in Victoria yet.
Suck at Eastern States.
It's because there's like 14 people in Western Australia, Sean, compared to us over here.
That's exactly the reason.
James, do you want to do a final thought?
Yeah, if Andrew's ever feeling under pressure and thinks that he needs to get the Celtic fans back on side, he could do a lot worse than dragging a journalist into the car park and giving him the hiding of his life.
And then
I thought he was going to do that as a BBC guy last night.
And then crack open a can of Iron Brew, scull it, and then just smash some haggis as well. Sounds perfect.
He'll smash a dinner plate and then start dancing.
Oh, guys, journalist in the room, please.
And my final thought is everyone on Twitter, calm the fuck down. It's early days.
I would agree with that.
Have you been on Twitter before, Jarrod? What do you think it's for?
It's a cesspit, I know. But
Yes.
I tried to debate with someone today about something and they ask questions, you respond, and then they just ignore you and ask more questions and then reply before you even reply the other one and then crack the shits at you. And I'm just like, dude, are you thick or slow? So it's just, calm the fuck down on there, everyone.
Yeah, I was feeling calm, rational, and sober the other day, and my first instinct was to go on Twitter.
Yeah, of course.
Twitter needs to lift the ban that they put on porn. Everybody on there was much more chilled out when they could just have a chug. Anyway,
we'll end the podcast there. We're going to have a outro today. Instead of our normal musical one that we have, there's a song called Paradise Again by a band called Bohemia. Good little song. And if you like it, make sure you give them a like on YouTube. The link will be in the description as well. Thanks, James, for coming on. It's our 100th episode. So thanks, everyone, for listening in over so many years. And, one last thing. We have a new logo that's going to be released with this podcast. So hope you like it.
High up on the main stand, we're at Celtic are here. I'm glad they came along to see them play. Yes, it's football time of year. The cheering of thousands around me. We're singing our favourite refrain. We're watching the best team in Scotland at paradise again. I thank my father for bringing me here to these old hallowed grounds. I was young but I can still remember all those fearsome thunderous sounds. Now I'm older and I hope to be here back with them again. Because of him I am a Celtic fan, and I've always been since then. The cheering of thousands around me, we're singing